Good morning, welcome, 1,000 welcomes. And we're meditating on the subject, life ongoing. And so the title for this meditation comes from a scripture that we shared last week, and it's Luke 24. And so the women go to the tomb, and the stone has rolled away, and these beings of light ask them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead?" And so the women are the first on the scene. They are the first to notice that life is ongoing. So life is ongoing beyond the ending that humans understand to be life. And so one of the ways to look at this is each of us is invited to live beyond the ending. Jesus makes this visible in a particular way. He demonstrates that each of us lives beyond the ending. Each of us lives beyond the ending of what we consider to be this human lifetime, and he makes that particularly visible. We will all make that visible. So stay here as long as you possibly can, enjoying every moment of your time in embodiment. Fill yourself with joy and love every moment of your time in embodiment. And remember just the incredible miraculousness of what it is to be in a human body, to feel life energy in the palms of your hands. And I would actually invite you to cup the palms of your hands in front of you and allow yourself to feel the miraculousness of life energy in the palms of your hands. To feel the way lion-hearted love is eternal, but it also pulses, and it also gives you like these incredible gifts of having lion-hearted love at the tips of your fingers, lion-hearted love in the palms of your hands. And so for every human then, the question is, how would I love to share this pure energy of lion-hearted love? And so just tune in to the way that this energy loves to share through you. So right in the midst of your daily life, right where you are. Even simple things like if you love to cook, if you love to build things, if you love to create, whatever it is that you love to create. If you work with any healing modality, if you have pets or kids or parents or partner or friends, all of this energy at your workplace, whatever it is that you are engaged in, this is the energy that shares through you, and it loves you. It's the energy of pure love, and it's so excited and delighted to be here. And so it doesn't look at it as a mistake or a cosmic joke or a punishment that we're here in the physical. And so I'm inviting each of us, if we can, to set aside pretty much every religious and spiritual tradition I know of has an implicit judgment on us for being here. It says, oh, if only you had meditated just a little more, you wouldn't be here. Oh, if only you weren't conceived in wickedness and sin and suffering, dukkha, you wouldn't be here. And so if we can, with loving, absolute respect, temporarily set that in abeyance, just temporarily set that aside, and just in innocence, in purity, before judgment arises and before concepts arise, if we just allow ourselves to feel, what does this innocent, pure energy of lion-hearted love feel like in the palms of my hands and at the tips of my fingers? It's completely innocent. It's completely pure. And it loves you. And it's really excited to be here. And it doesn't think it's a mistake to be here. Instead, it's like whatever you love. Like whatever you love in clarity and purity and simplicity and joy and generosity, that's this energy sharing through you. So everything of beauty, everything of joy, like if you love to sing, if you love to dance, if you love whatever it is that you love to walk barefoot on the grass, you love the way flowers bloom, you love the way trees unfurl, you love the way plants and animals and kids play and laugh. All of that is this energy, and it's absolutely beautiful and pure. And so when we can be in contact with that, sort of like the original holiness, the original wholeness, the original sacredness, before judgment comes into it, then we'll always be able to navigate, because it is also true that in time and space we encounter incredibly excruciating confusion, misunderstanding, fear, worry, heartache, heartbreak, pain. And so when we're in contact with this lion-hearted love, we'll always know how to respond. So last week, we were meditating on the crucifixion, and we were also meditating on the resurrection. So just a couple things to notice here. Swami Nityananda used to say, you don't get the resurrection without the crucifixion. And so that's a really painful reality of being in time and space. So the human part of ourselves says, oh, please, can I just have the resurrection? I don't want to go through the crucifixion. It hurts, right? I came across this, it was like an online forum where people said, if they could ask one question of God, this would be that one question. And the question that just made me like almost burst into laughter and tears. Damn, bro, what did I do? I hear people laughing and clapping and applauding and crying because that's what it feels like. Like that's the voice of the crucified aspect of ourselves, right? Like that's the voice of, and I'm just reminding ourselves, this is not a pleasant thing to remind ourselves of, but crucifixion was invented by cruel humans to intentionally create the cruelest possible way to die, to make people suffer the most you could possibly suffer, and to do it publicly, like with shame and with humiliation and with just like the worst humans are capable of, right? And so that particular phrase in that online forum is the crucified us. Every one of us has gone through these incredibly painful things we just don't understand. So the second thing on this online forum that also made me burst out laughing and crying, one question that you would ask God if you could ask God any question. Why? So that's another perfect human question to ask God. And the third question, how's my mom? So much love in all of those questions, and just that pure human plea, like the humanness in all of us that has to go through the crucifixion and doesn't know. And so I'm also just reminding ourselves of this as well. The early students of Jesus, so first of all, they didn't call themselves Christians, they called themselves followers of the way. And so there was a different understanding than we have now inherited. There was an understanding that following the way meant walking the walk. It meant walking the teachings. And so scholars who look at the word believe, the way that Jesus used the word believe, it was not an abstract set of concepts. It was not intellectual assent. It was not doctrines. It was, I trust, I am committed, I am engaged, I give my heart, I will live the teachings. Feel how different that is. And only in the 17th century did believe as a set of intellectual doctrines and concepts come into play. So sort of like around the time the Enlightenment was being invented, that was when believe, the way that we use believe today, became invented. And so I'm just bringing us back to those early days. When Jesus said believe, he meant, will you give your heart? Will you trust? Will you be committed? Will you be engaged? Will you walk the walk? Will you live the teachings? And it's a completely different proposition, because what he's teaching and transmitting is the truth, which is when you live the teachings, they become directly present and real and available and observable, tangible, palpable in your daily life. And so a couple of things to keep in mind here. One is the women in the scriptures are the ones who are able to be present at the foot of the cross. So I want to take this beyond gender. God is beyond gender. We're actually all beyond gender too, independent of how we gender identify, independent of how we gender express. Our soul is beyond gender. So don't take it that I'm saying only women can do this. I'm saying the women demonstrate that when we say, I give my heart, I trust, I am committed, I am engaged, I will walk the walk, then we can be present at the foot of the cross. It takes different forms for all of us, but this tells us it is in the capacity, it is in the power within each of us to be present and aware and compassionate with what seems humanly impossible, with what seems humanly unbearable, with what seems like it cannot be endured by a human. The women demonstrate that that is possible. And in one of the scriptures, John is also present at the foot of the cross, also demonstrating that that is possible. And so just notice, it is when we allow ourselves to be present with what is humanly unbearable that the resurrection also becomes available to us. So it is to the women that Jesus first appears, because they have lived through what seemed to be the ending. They've lived beyond the ending. They've lived into life ongoing. And so Jesus appears to Mary in the garden. He looks so ordinary. She thinks he's the gardener. And so just think about that for a second. What that means is that the risen divine self, it's walking among us. It's here always. It's in every garden we've ever walked through. It's the gardener. It's the ordinary, everyday humans who have lived beyond the ending. And so we're just invited to recognize all of us have done this already. All of us have lived beyond what we understood. All of us have lived beyond what we expected. All of us have lived beyond what we knew. All of us have lived beyond what we considered to be possible. We have done this. And so the next time you find yourself up there at the foot of the cross, living beyond the ending, remind yourself, okay, so we can do this. We've done this before. We're still here. We came out the other side. Life is ongoing. And then it becomes possible for us to live beyond the ending and to live into the life ongoing. And so just remind yourself, the divine in me, lion-hearted love in me, the pure energy of compassion and wisdom and awareness in me, makes it possible for me to stay steady, even in and with unbearable pain. Even with what seems impossible, I can live through that. I can move through that. And I will, thanks to divine grace. So when I set aside what I believe to be possible, when I set aside the limits that I otherwise would ascribe to myself, the divine will absolutely show me the ways in which life is ongoing, and it'll be fun. And so on the other side of walking through that wall of fire that seems impossible, Dante does it at the end of his great trilogy, where he descends into hell, and then he ascends up through purgatory, and then the last thing before he enters paradise, he has to walk through a wall of fire. And so every one of us gets to walk through a wall of fire. The wall of fire just burns away separateness. It burns away illusion. It burns away concepts. It burns away what we believed to be possible. And then on the other side of that is absolute love. And so on the other side of that wall of fire, Dante finds total reunion with what he adores, and also the love that moves the sun and the moon and the stars. And that love is already here. So that's in fact what allows us to walk forward and allows us to be present at the foot of the cross. And so just remind yourselves that each of us is living beyond the ending. We've already done it, and we will do it again. And so this is that energy of absolute love, that pure, innocent, lion-hearted love in the palm of our hands. And it's also the energy of joy. So it's the energy of rebirth, it's the energy of possibility, it's the energy of newness, the energy of freshness, the energy of vastness, the energy of gorgeousness, the energy of unshakable, eternal kindness, absolute strength and steadiness, generosity, wholeness. And so each of us is that always. And then the way that we express that and reflect that and shine that into time and space is unique to each of us. So a couple other things that we might notice on the road to Emmaus, and so I was also meditating on this scripture as well. This is in Luke 24. So a couple of things to notice here. Scholars don't know where Emmaus is. So guess where Emmaus is? Wherever you walk. Wherever you walk and are feeling downcast. Because these two students in this scripture, they're talking over the events of what happened and they're feeling downcast. And I just, again, go back to the beginning. The students who were following the teachings of the way didn't know that the resurrection was going to happen. They just knew they were completely devastated because the crucifixion sure had happened. So they were in the middle. They were in the middle of like moving toward what comes beyond that ending. They didn't know what came next. So we have the benefit of hindsight. We know what came next. But they're living through bewilderment. And they're living through, I don't understand this. And they're also living through just personal heartbreak. Like if you can imagine the kindest, wisest person you know, and then you can imagine that person suffering the most miserable, cruel death that humans can devise for other humans to experience, that's what happened. And they're just like, huh? Like, that's back to the, damn bro, what did I do? That's back to the, why? That's back to the, how's my mom? Right? So that voice within each of us that just doesn't understand the vagaries and the cruelties of duality. And what Jesus demonstrates is, despite the vagaries and the cruelties of duality, we are unbreakable love. He's unbreakable love, we are too. He tells us he's our older brother, our Father, which art in heaven. So he's our brother, and he's with us. So just the same way that your big brother might have your back, the divine has our back and is helping us live through the things that we don't understand in the realm of duality. And so just these two travelers who are on the road, they meet, some of the translations say that it's a stranger, some say that it's a visitor, some say that it's a traveler. And so again, this is the resurrected Jesus. He's completely ordinary. He looks like any ordinary stranger or traveler, any ordinary visitor. And so guess what? The divine is walking among us. Every road that we've ever walked upon, it's right there. And so for us, the question is, how can I open to see the divine? Every road that I walk upon, how can I open to see the divine? And so there's a couple of invitations here. One is, Jesus says to them, how foolish you are and how slow to believe. And so come back to that meaning of belief. Active belief. Trust, commit, engage, give your heart, walk the walk, live the teachings. If you do that, you will see the divine everywhere that you are, on every road that you walk. And so that's one of the ways to understand this particular encounter. Another way to understand this is they urge this traveler, this visitor, this stranger to stay with them. So they practice kindness. They practice welcome. They practice respect. They practice hospitality. They practice generosity. And so that is when their eyes are open and they are able to see the divine. And they're able to say, this was Jesus. Jesus was here all along. We were talking to Jesus. And then Jesus disappears. He vanishes. And so one of the ways to look at this is each of us in our daily life is invited to practice kindness, is invited to practice respect, is invited to practice generosity, is invited to practice welcome, is invited to practice caring, is invited to practice treating the stranger, the visitor, the traveler, the other, as we ourselves would love to be treated. And when that happens, the stranger, the visitor, the traveler, the other, turns out to be our own selves. It turns out to be the divine. And so I'm going to give us an opportunity just to close our eyes and to feel our way into that energy. So feel our way into Again, connecting with lion-hearted love in the palm of our hands. So this is your own innocent, pure energy of devotion and wisdom and compassion and caring and creativity and kindness. And it's with you always. And it loves you. And it's so excited to be here in the realm of time and space. And so just that original innocence and wholeness, it is fresh, limitless, vast, gorgeous energy and strength. And just notice each of us can come back to contact with this energy always. And then we can invite this energy to flow into any task, any endeavor, any creative expression, any work, any relationship, any play, any fun, anything that we love, everywhere that we are. And then also notice, the way that Swami Shankarananda put it, there is no resurrection without the crucifixion. And so in some ways, each of us has been tormented and crucified, and then has moved beyond that into life ongoing. And just notice as well, Jesus gets down off the cross. He doesn't keep carrying the cross. So see if we can give ourselves permission to get down off of the cross and let go of carrying the cross. And notice that we then are in the garden, perfectly ordinary, perfectly human, perfectly ourselves, but in the garden. Freshness and newness and vitality and growth blooming, life energy blooming all around us. And then notice that wherever we walk, we are able to walk with the divine. And also that the divine is us walking forward on the road of life. And so just notice what that feels like to step forward on the road of life. Whatever is right in front of you, step forward with joy, with confidence, and with belief. Active belief, not concepts or doctrines or ideas or intellectual propositions or assent, but I trust, I commit, I am engaged, I give my heart, I walk the walk, I live the teachings. And notice how freeing and empowering that is. And then notice as well, each of us is invited to reach out kindness, respect, welcome, caring, generosity, recognition, appreciation, to actual confused humans. So we are the actual confused humans, and we are also the divine reaching out. And so just notice that when we reach out with awareness, when we allow light to reach out through us, when we allow lion-hearted love to reach out through us, the divine becomes visible in the strangest and most unlikely places. And if you like, you can keep your eyes closed. I will share with you a true story about a way the divine reached out in one of those strange, unlikely places. And so this is a story told by a rabbi about his relative who lived in Nazi Germany. She was Jewish. She was taking a bus home from work. The bus was stopped, and Nazi soldiers got onto the bus. They started checking everyone's papers. She was Jewish, and she knew if they found that out, they would take her away. She was nervous. She was visibly shaking. And the man in the bus, seated next to her, said to her, "What's wrong?" She said, "I'm Jewish. I don't have any papers. They will take me away." When the Nazi soldiers drew near to this Jewish woman, the man seated on the bus next to her began shouting at her, "Damn you! I'm sick of you! I can't stand to be seen with you!" And the soldier said, "What's up?" And the man said, "My stupid wife keeps forgetting her papers." And the Nazi soldier smirked and laughed and moved on. And the stranger on the bus and the Jewish woman got off the bus safely together. She never saw him again. It's a very, very strange story about navigating duality and using the energy of anger and contempt as a shield so that she could escape with her life. And so if we set aside the anger and contempt, let that go, and just notice that each of us has the ability to use creativity and ingenuity in the unlikeliest times and places and ways, to give nothing less than the breath of life to those who are traveling next to us. So let us tune in and let us have lion-hearted courage to let that be so. Thank God, and God bless us all.